What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my review of the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G. Now, this device was recently launched by Samsung, and it is being offered at a variety of different carriers, factory unlocked, and in a variety of different regions around the world. Now, you probably noticed already, but this is the AT&T model of the device. And definitely take a look at the various links in the video description to see the most up-to-date pricing and availability for the A13 5G. Now, based on where you get the device from, the box will look different, as well as what's included, but at least from AT&T, you do get a quick start guide, terms and conditions. You also get a SIM card removal tool, and you get a double-sided USB-C cable. So again, keep in mind that based on where you get the phone from, what is included in the box could be different. Now, with the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G, we're getting a very large display at 6.5 inches. Now, the display itself features PLS TFT technology, and it actually is a 90 Hz display. So in the past, and with the predecessor model of this device, which was the A12, we got a 60 Hz display. But now, bumping that up to 90 Hz will give you a more smooth experience here when going around the operating system and navigating around the device. And essentially, it's supposed to make the device feel a bit more premium. Now, in addition to that, the display itself is 720p, so it is a bit unfortunate that it's not 1080p. But that being said, though, I do feel like things do look decently crisp and clear, and the colors are not bad as well. The PPI that we're getting with the device is 270. We're getting a 20:9 aspect ratio, so a more narrow but taller form factor with the phone, which is pretty consistent with devices that were launched all throughout 2021, and now in 2022, and we're getting an 81.1% screen-to-body ratio. So relatively small bezels, but the bottom bezel is a bit thicker, and we do have a water drop notch up top. Now, in that notch is a 5 megapixel front-facing camera, and stay tuned for later on in the video, as I'll be showing you a variety of different photo and video samples from the phone. Now, internally here with the Galaxy A13 5G, we are getting 64 gigabytes of internal storage, and we're also getting microSD card expansion. So if 64 gigs happens to not be enough for you, then at least you can add in a microSD card, and then you can offload, for example, photos and videos. But so far, I still do have quite a bit of internal storage left. I've only used up 33% so far, and a good portion of that is for the system software, which does take up 13.71 gigabytes. Now, I'm sure that will change though, as the device does get software updates in the future, but essentially, I think Samsung made a really good move giving this phone 64 gigs of internal storage, because that's double of what we got with the A12. And not only that, but as time goes on, apps are going to continue to get bigger and bigger, which means that you'll definitely need a lot of space with your device. So I do feel like 64 gigs for the most part is a good baseline for storage for pretty much any smartphone, just to ensure that you're able to actually install a decent amount of apps on the phone without very quickly running into the internal storage filling up. Now, with the Galaxy A13 5G, there is no wireless charging, but the device does feature a fingerprint sensor on the power button. Now, in general, I definitely am a big fan of having the fingerprint sensor there. It's not a big deal if it's on the back of the device, and certainly it is convenient having the fingerprint sensor being in the display, like we've gotten with other phones, including different devices in the A series from Samsung, but having it on the power button is also very convenient. And the only issue, though, is that the fingerprint sensor isn't quite as accurate or responsive as I would prefer. It is at least good enough where it works, but it's not always really that reliable. And that is a bit disappointing because I've used plenty of other devices that have a fingerprint sensor in the power button, and typically they do a lot better than this. Now, again, you can see here, I am able to get it to work pretty often at this point, but, oh, nope, just missed it there. So, yeah, there, I just missed it again. So I've added in my thumb multiple times, so I would have preferred that this would be a bit more responsive. But again, for a lower end device like this one, I'm at least glad that it does work well enough. It can get a bit frustrating, but thankfully, you can also get into this device via Face Unlock. So there are multiple methods for getting into the phone. So if you set up both Face Unlock and you have the fingerprint sensor here, then I feel like overall your experience will be pretty good. But hopefully when Samsung inevitably gives us the A14, which would probably be in about a year from now, I hope that they do at least give us a little bit of a better quality fingerprint sensor. Now with the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G, we do have a triple camera setup on the back of the phone, featuring a 50 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera for close-up images, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera for portrait mode. And this device does have portrait mode for both the rear and front cameras, which is pretty awesome. Now here's how things look on the camera app on the device. This is with the main camera right here. Then from here we can go over to the More tab, and we can access a few other options, including the macro camera. And then with the macro camera, you can get very close up and have things be in very good detail. So definitely nice to have there. It is kind of a niche feature that you might not be using too often if you end up getting the phone, but I am glad that we at least have it. Now, unfortunately, with the A13 5G, there is no ultra-wide-angle camera, which is a bit disappointing, and I do wish that the phone did have that feature. Now, flipping around to the front-facing camera, we can do a standard selfie, or if you want to as well, we can do portrait mode. So overall, pretty decent quality. Again, stay tuned for later on in the video though, as you'll see actual photos and videos that I did take here with the phone. But overall, I would say the cameras are good enough. I just would have preferred to have a ultra wide angle camera as one of those three cameras, maybe swap out the macro camera for that, and 5 megapixels for the front-facing camera really isn't a whole lot. Now internally, with the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G, we have 4 gigabytes of RAM and the MediaTek Dimensity 700 5G processor. So 4 gigs of RAM is actually pretty good for a lower-end device like this one, and the MediaTek Dimensity 700 5G is actually a very capable processor. So that's probably the highlight with this phone. Now I know that typically MediaTek does not have the best reputation, but this is actually a really decent processor from them. Now I did run a Geekbench 5 benchmark test with the phone, and I got a single core score of 466 and a multi-core score of 1113. So what I recommend doing is running this test in your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to get a better idea of how this device measures up with what you currently have. Because it certainly is possible that your current phone could be faster than this phone. So I definitely recommend running that test. But the good news though is that, again, the MediaTek Dimensity 700 5G is a very capable processor, and it's significantly faster than the processor that we got with last year's Galaxy A14. Now, of course, also with that processor, as the name does imply, the phone does support 5G connectivity. So that's another nice thing about this device, as it will give it a bit more longevity compared to a phone that's 4G only. Now, video recording with the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G maxes out at 1080p with both the front and rear cameras, and the device features a very large 5,000 milliamp hour internal battery. Now, the phone does support up to 15 watt fast charging, which is pretty decent, but more importantly, having such a large battery will definitely give you at least a full day of usage, if not 2 days. So I am glad that they did give this phone such a big battery. Another nice thing too about the A13 5G, or at least this version of the phone, is that it does feature NFC. So you can see the NFC icon in the upper right corner. Having NFC is great because you can use Samsung Pay, you could also use Google Pay, and you're able to make mobile contactless payments. So there's not really too many budget devices that actually have NFC, and I don't know completely though if every A13 5G does have NFC. There might be certain models of the device sold in certain regions or on certain carriers that don't have NFC. So definitely double check that, but I'm at least glad that this model of the phone does have that feature. Now, as far as software goes, this device is running Android 11, featuring Samsung's One UI. And if you've used any Samsung device within the last 3 or 4 years especially, then the user experience here will be very familiar to you because they don't really change it up a ton from device to device. That's yet another reason to stick with Samsung if you currently have a Samsung phone and you do like it. Now, as far as the hardware of this device goes, as you probably noticed already, it is made completely out of plastic besides the display, which is made out of glass. That being said though, it does feel of decent quality and it certainly does not feel cheap. So that's good. Now the material on the back is relatively boring I suppose, but it is a matte black finish. And what's nice though about it is that it doesn't pick up too many fingerprints, which is really good. Now taking a look at the left side of the phone, we have just the slot for the microSD card and SIM card. Then on the right side of the phone, we have the fingerprint sensor that's also the power button, volume down and volume up. Then up top here we have the noise canceling microphone. And then on the bottom of the device, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the speaker. And then on the back of the phone, we have the triple camera setup, the flash, and the Samsung logo, but that's about it. So it is a pretty plain design overall, definitely not very exciting in general, but if you're looking for a phone that can take care of the basic tasks that you'd want out of a smartphone, then this device does get the job done for that. It's certainly more of a function over form device. It's not really impressive looking, nor does it really have any features that are impressive, but when it comes to just getting the core functions that you'd want out of a smartphone, the A13 5G certainly can get the job done for you. But here's some camera samples from the Galaxy A13 5G. In general, I've been very impressed with the photo quality that this device does provide, as I feel like the photos do look really good here. Now, of course, compared to a $1,000 smartphone, for example, these are not nearly as good, but if you want to get a phone that can take pictures and videos that are at least good enough to use and post on social media, and especially if you just want to preserve memories, whether it's a family function or a vacation or something like that, then I feel like the A13 5G's cameras will get the job done for you. But again, if you want the best of the best that's out there, this phone certainly won't do that by any means. And of course, we are lacking a lot of camera features as well, whether it's hardware or software features. And it certainly would have been nice if the A13 5G did have a ultra wide angle camera. But I'll let you be the judge, and definitely let me know what you think in the comment section below about the camera quality from the phone. But let's now take a look at some video samples from the device. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with a 1080p front-facing test video from the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G. Definitely curious to know what you think about the video and audio quality from this. But, whoa, got really bright all of a sudden. It is kind of near the end of the day here, so trying to kind of stay in the shade, but it is, of course, light enough to do a proper video test. Definitely didn't want to do this in total direct sunlight. But again, super curious to know what you think of the quality. Definitely let me know in the comments. And here is a 1080p test video using the main rear camera on the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G. We do have pretty quick autofocus in video mode, which is good. Definitely pretty fast, especially for a lower end budget phone like this one. Now the Galaxy A03s, as the name does imply, is the successor to last year's Galaxy A02s. Now I will be comparing those two devices in a few... Now, video playback with the Galaxy A13 5G is actually really good, and the device does have a pretty good picture in general, despite it being 720p. Now, one downside to keep in mind is that we don't have stereo audio with the phone, so audio only comes out of the main speaker instead of coming out of both that speaker and the earpiece as well. Now, the earpiece, of course, still does work for phone calls, but if you're doing anything else, like listening to music or watching videos, like in this example, then you're only getting audio out of the main speaker on the bottom of the phone. Now, the good news, though, is that the quality from that speaker is pretty decent, so I don't think it's a deal breaker by any means, but it is something that I did want to at least mention here so that you know. So in conclusion, is the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G worth buying? Now, in general, I think this phone is a pretty solid choice. And I think most importantly, it really depends on what your other options are. Now, I'd imagine that most people that end up buying this phone, and especially in the US, will be getting it from a carrier. So if you're walking into your carrier store and you see this phone on display, it might not be a bad choice, but it really depends on what other promotions are being run. Because I know at certain times, some phones are being offered for free, for example, while others are being offered at full price. They kind of switch around the various promotions between all their various phones available at different times. So again, it really depends on what else is offered and how that device would compare to this device, and then what different deals are available. But all in all, on its own, if you do manage to get a Galaxy A13 5G, then I don't think you'll regret the purchase, because for a lower end device like this one, I do feel like you're getting a pretty solid phone here. What really stands out to me is that we're getting a lot of storage at 64 gigabytes. We're getting NFC, at least with the carrier models. I'm not sure though about other models of the device. But then also getting that powerful MediaTek Dimensity 700 5G processor really does make this a decently powerful device despite being a lower end phone. So I do like what Samsung's doing here and the direction they're taking the A series. And I do think that the A13 5G certainly should be a phone that you should consider if you're not looking to spend too much, but still want a decent smartphone. But I hope you enjoyed my review of the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G. This is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next video.